When the system starts to feel unstable, capital stops chasing abstraction and returns to the one thing you can actually stand on: land. In times of expansion, capital begins to drift toward abstraction. It flows into equities, structured products, and digital instruments that trade on liquidity, leverage, and narrative. And investors come to accept that most of what they own are simply claims on something, not the thing itself. When inflation lingers and policy starts to feel improvised, the hierarchy of value begins to shift. Investors stop chasing exposure and start demanding control, durability, and real optionality. Unlike developed real estate that concentrates all your risk in one place, raw land is a platform. Each improvement you make adds another layer of value without ever locking you into a single outcome. KDB International Holdings approaches land improvement as a sequence of clear phases. First comes access, then the pad, followed by infrastructure, and finally a near build-ready status. Each step along the way adds tangible value. As each road is cut and every utility line laid down, raw speculative acreage begins to change. Step by step, it becomes a credible, build-ready home site, and its market value rises with each deliberate move forward. Back in the 2000s, this phased strategy was battle-tested across Texas and Nevada, where 5 distinct home layouts gave investors turnkey options at every stage of development. With each improvement, the land begins to speak to a different audience. First, it calls to the speculator, then the dreamer, and finally the builder ready to break ground. The project is never forced to reach a final conclusion. At any rung of the development ladder, it can pause, reassess, and then exit on its own terms. The goal was never to predict the future market. Instead, it was about creating credible exit points so that decisions to hold, sell, or improve became real options rather than forced bets. The bank didn't just scrutinize the deal, it demanded a full accounting of everything, treating a strong credit profile as if it were somehow suspect. And that friction wasn't a hurdle. It was a diagnosis. The bank's money came with a hidden price tag. Every decision, every move they made, had to pass through a machinery of compliance that slowly stripped away their freedom to act. On paper, private capital carried a higher rate, but then it delivered something the banks simply could not: speed, clarity, and underwriting that judged the land itself, not the man behind it. When you can move without asking permission, speed itself becomes an asset. Every day saved from committee reviews and compliance loops is a day the land appreciates on your terms, not theirs. Land doesn't care about credit cycles or policymaker moods. Its value sits in location, scarcity, and what it can become, quietly indifferent to the noise above it. And so, the very roads and utilities that make this land build-ready also set the stage for what comes next: a tokenized future where real-world assets meet programmable ownership on the blockchain. The same land we improve with roads and water is also being prepared for a future where ownership itself becomes programmable, tokenized, and borderless. Rather than starting with cheap capital and chasing yield, this approach begins with something tangible, land, and keeps the freedom to decide what comes next. This wasn't about ideology at all. It was pure pragmatism. Then, in a fragile macro environment, the ability to act on real land at your own pace became the ultimate advantage. The real value here isn't found in what you might someday sell it for. It's found in the choices you hold on to, and the optionality you deliberately widen with each decision you make. This was never about betting on a single outcome. It was a deliberate refusal to be locked into one, preserving the freedom to choose when the moment came. Smoke and Mirrors began with a simple idea: to question the narratives we're handed about finance, technology, and the systems quietly shaping every decision we make. Picture an investor who held paper claims worth millions back in 2008, then watched them evaporate overnight. But the land? It was still there, still his. Picture an investor holding shares in a REIT, a digital token, and a derivative contract. Each one promises exposure to real estate, yet none delivers a single key, a fence line, or the right to break ground. And when confidence fractures, that distinction becomes everything. If this inversion resonated with you, then come along and subscribe to Smoke and Mirrors on Substack for critical analysis of finance, crypto, justice, and the systems shaping our world.